Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar Hamid. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Today I have the pleasure of having Terri Levine here. She's a help me pronounce it. It's heart and entrepreneur, and I can't say it.
Yeah, you said it right.
Brilliant. Just before we start, I wanted to let you know that my wife had told me, the fastest way to a man's heart is through his chest.
I love it. I love it.
So in business, we spend so much time being focused on what we're thinking and don't connect with our heart as often as we should. And so talk to me about why you went in this direction, because I think it's the best way to go.
Yeah, sure. I had been CEO of a national healthcare company. And it really struck me that it was all about dollars. It was all about numbers. They didn't really care about the employees. They didn't care about the vendors. It was profit. And I did something unusual in that company. And I just spoke transparently to the 1,800 employees that I had. I literally spoke from the heart. I made connections. I was authentic. I was in integrity. Productivity went up over 70%. And I said, that's the way to do business. And I decided that I would disrupt how people were doing business.
You know what's really interesting is that, congratulations for doing that. And people can tell easily when you're just saying something and when you truly believe something, it just comes through in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. And if you do business really centered on always being authentic, transparent, and in integrity, my favorite 3 words, it really makes a huge difference in my experience.
So say the 3 words again. I'm going to write those down.
Yeah. Authenticity, transparency, integrity.
Okay. I'll tell you my favorite 3 words.
I'd love to hear them.
So it's being authentic to who you are, being relevant to the people you're serving, and having focus on what you're doing.
Beautiful.
Which are different, but in the same kind of ballpark.
Yeah, we're definitely aligned. Definitely.
So one of the most powerful experiences I ever had was this, is somebody said, Umar, lift up your left arm and notice what it feels like, which I did. And it felt, like it would. Then he said, okay, now I want you to do something weird. I want you to ask your heart to lift up your left arm. And it just lifted up of its own accord. It was flowing. I felt like a ballerina because it was like no effort and it was just graceful. And that was a life-changing moment for me. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because they write a million songs about the heart, poems, not one about the liver, because the heart is more than just a pump. It's basically where we connect with ourselves and with the divine and with each other. And so how do you bring this kind of like crazy talk to business people and make it relatable, understandable, and they see the power of it?
Now, I'm glad you asked that. I just had this conversation with a brand new client yesterday, and he said, well, the CEOs I work with, they don't want to hear any of this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? It really is time for people to engage much more emotion and emotional intelligence. And when I find that people aren't ready to hear about heart and heart-centered leadership, all I do is show them case studies and evidence. One company after another, one transition after another. And usually that helps them make the shift and decide that they're going to be a bit more open-minded.
Absolutely. I think my best guess would be this, that if you went to them, of course this stuff doesn't work, but tell me about a particular time where you listen to your heart, and everyone's got a story of when they did it, and say, hey, imagine if that was for you every day. And then sometimes this evidence from their own life. And what's interesting is we discount that. When it was happening to us, we believed it and went, holy crap, this is amazing. And then for some reason, we talked ourselves out of it.
Yeah, I get that. And, some people will say, well, I trust my gut. And I'll say, I don't know that your gut really is a brain. I know there's conversation about that. I really believe that if I trust my heart, then I make the right decisions. I've been married for, my gosh, almost 43 years, happily, to an amazing man, just by trusting my heart. And that's how I make my decisions.
So I come at this similar to you, but slightly differently. So I'm going to take you down a tangent, if I may.
Yeah,
Do you remember that old TV show, Star Trek?
of course.
So at the beginning of the episode, something's happening, and Bones and McCoy and Kirk don't all agree what they need to do.
Mhm.
But by the end of the episode, they all come in alignment. And the reason I share that with you is this. Do you remember what Spock was all about? What was his main thing?
I don't know that I have an answer for that.
It was logic. It was all about, hey,
Oh,
in your
yeah.
head, it's all logic.
Yeah.
And then Bones was, the doctor. He was all about heart and connecting and feeling. And then James T. Kirk was all about gut. If there's a
Yeah.
alien, I'm going to sleep with her, kind of thing. And so I think the reason that show was so popular was that to be a whole person, we need to connect our head, our heart, and our gut. So I'm a firm believer in gut. And if they all align, then you're on the right track. But if you got to trust one out of the three, I would go with you. Trust the heart, but don't discount the others either.
I love that you brought that up, because just in making a decision I'm making right now, I went with my feelings, with my heart, and then I backed that up literally with logic. I'm like, well, here's the pros, here's the cons. And I brought it all together. And I noticed, it wasn't doing it as consciously as I might have. I noticed that it comes from me first tapping into my heart and then bringing everything else in. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's powerful. What's kind of interesting is that, we talk about teams with heart, because oftentimes they're the ones that are just average people coming together, and they come together in a way that brings courage to the equation. And there's a level of certainty that comes with it. Is when you use logic, there's always the pros and the cons, and the heart always kind of has a sense of this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to help you get the resources you need if you just believe and go down this path with me.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that when I align with my heart, it's like magic happens. Things start to show up. People, opportunities, experiences. Just the other day, there was somebody who sent me an email message. I don't know the person, but the email message really touched my heart. And so I reached back out to them, and we had the most amazing connection yesterday. And it's just because I stopped and I listened.
That is amazing. So I'll tell you my heart story. Back in 2003, the most important person in the entire world, you guessed it, was me.
I was about to guess that.
And the only time it wasn't is, I help people break through their mental blocks to get to the other side. And when I was in session with someone, they were the most important person. The rest of the time it was me. And I went for a training in New Zealand. And the first thing they did was they only fed us a vegetarian salad for lunch. It was like 8 weeks of training, so we wouldn't fall asleep in the afternoons. So my diet changed. I was in New Zealand, and they speak English, but they have a totally different culture.
Yes.
And then all day long, I was working with people, so I was concerned about other people, 12 hours a day for 8 weeks. And something magical happened. And what happened was, the best way I can describe it is if my heart was like a rose bud, tightly clenched, it blossomed during that experience of making others more important than me. And it just changed the quality of my work everywhere, because I came more heart focused as opposed to logic focused and ego focused.
I can relate to that. I really can.
Do you have a story like that?
Yeah, I have a very similar story. And this is, gosh, it has to be like 30 years ago. I was very ego focused, and I'm aware of it now. I wasn't then. And I was in Mount Snow, Vermont. And every single day I was cross-country skiing, which I just loved. And one day, all of a sudden, I was out there by myself, and I got caught in a huge blizzard. I mean, it was crazy. It was like a whiteout, and I couldn't see anything.
Right.
And I stopped myself from feeling fear and panic about myself and thinking, I remember seeing other people somewhere on this path. I wonder if they're okay. And it was so interesting to me, because I turned and started going back in the other direction, forgetting about my own self, all focused on, I remember other people. Are they okay? And eventually I actually found somebody else on the path who was
Nice.
terrified. And I thought, wow, when I turned that around, it turned around my whole way of being. And that was a big shift for me.
Isn't that amazing that we get these life-changing moments? And the thing that's really sad of the whole thing is I wonder how many other life-changing moments I had that I ignored. Like the lesson was there and I just missed it. And I just caught the ones I did that were life-changing, amazing, made me a better person. And it's just like, I could have been awesomer so long ago.
I think we are granted life-changing moments like all the time. And sometimes our eyes and ears and our heart aren't open for them. And sadly, sometimes people go through their whole life without that. So I just feel every one of those moments is a real blessing. And I'm grateful for them. And I do my best to try to seek more of them.
So here's, I'm going to share a theory with you. Let me know kind of what you think.
Okay.
So you have somebody going down a life path that they've chosen, and it could have been, good career, good family, but they're just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And at some point they hit one of these roadblocks where it's like, things are not working and they overcome it and they keep on going down the same path. And then the messages get more and more intense. And sometimes these people end up getting sick and they get cancer. And when people get better from cancer, we call it remission. And we don't use language accidentally. It's like remission. It's like they come to a point where they go, wait a minute, what I'm doing isn't the right thing. I should be doing this. And this doesn't mean they need to go save the whales. It just could be, I need to be a teacher or whatever. And the question to you is this: do you think that confronting death got them to reconsider their life and then they got better? Or was it that they got better and they re-examined their life? So do you think the new mission comes up before the healing or as a result of the healing?
I think it comes up before. I really do. And I have a personal story. Can I share that?
Oh, of course. Tell me.
So in 1996, my mom passed away of emphysema. And she was literally like my best friend on the planet. And 7 days later, my girlfriend Marnie died of breast cancer at the age of 40.
Wow.
Up until that point in my life, I defined my entire life by work, work, work. And I had worked myself sick, literally sick. When all of this happened, I sat down, and I love how you put remission. I really remissioned my entire life. I quit my job. I took my day planner, that was my Bible, literally. I threw it in a garbage can.
Hold on for a second. I am giving you an applause. Please continue.
And I literally, in that moment, changed everything in my life. I changed my focus on my health, my eating, my sleeping. I started meditation. I learned how to breathe. I could go on and on. So I honestly believe that the remission comes first, whether conscious or unconscious. Does that make sense, Umar?
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting is that it is so sad that we have to confront something so awful like that to kind of get a wake-up call. And you listen to it. And so I used to have this radio show a long time ago called Life-Changing Breakthroughs. And one of my friends, we were having coffee. I said, hey, Jim, have you ever had a life-changing breakthrough? And he said, oh, yeah. I was getting ready to go on stage in Singapore to do a keynote speech. And I had a heart attack and I died. And literally it took them 2 minutes to revive me and bring me back. And then I realized that the path that I'm on is the wrong path, that I should be going down this other path. And I said, oh, well, that's pretty amazing. By any chance, were there any signs before you freaking died? And he said, you know what? There were billboards with flashing lights and I just did not see them. But when I looked back, it was like, oh my God, there were so many signs that I did not see that if I had seen those, I would not have gotten to this stage. So for everyone listening, there are some people listening going, oh my God, that's amazing. And there's other people listening going, these guys are nuts. And I want you to just go, we might be nuts, but just kind of think back to, have there been signs in your life that just would have allowed you to change things, and it's never too late to change. And it doesn't mean being a lawyer is bad or being obsessed about your work, whatever you're doing is bad. It's like, oh, I'm here to do this. can you bring some of that into your life? You don't have to destroy everything, but you can like refocus it and just get more happiness and joy. Once you're doing what you're meant to be doing, what happens is something really bizarre. You wake up every morning going, oh, I can't wait to do this. And you can have a totally crap day that's filled with disaster. And you come home and tell your loved one, oh, it was an awesome day.
It's
So
true.
instead of being exhausted, you come home with energy.
Yeah, I just returned. I live in Mexico part of the year, so I just returned from spending a couple weeks at my place in Mexico. And the day I came home, I was so excited. I mean, I love being away, and yet I couldn't wait to get to my office. I couldn't wait to catch up with my clients. I couldn't wait to see what videos and homework they uploaded. And my husband was like, it is amazing to watch you for all these years doing what you love and loving what you do. And that's a blessing.
That is a blessing. And it's so close to everyone's grasp to go get it.
100%.
So if I was emperor for a day, like right now, the U.S. doesn't know who's in charge. I think I should take over just for a day. And this is what I would do.
I gotcha.
So there'd be three things that I would actually force every American to do. Number one is uncover who you truly deeply are. Most people don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, you're lost. Number two, figure out your purpose in life. Because if you know who you are and where you're going, you can find a goal that's worthy of you, that aligns with who you are. And every ounce of your passion will help you achieve it. And number three, this is like from left field. Every American should travel overseas, because when you go overseas, this is what you realize, that everybody in the world is just like us.
I agree.
And they want the same things. They want a better life for their kids. They want safety, and they want justice in the place that they live.
I am so glad that I have gotten to travel and speak all around the world in all kinds of countries of all different sizes and cultures. And human beings are human beings. DNA is DNA. It doesn't change based on where you live, your size, your shape, your color, your ethnicity, none of that.
And you know, the other thing that just still blows my mind anytime I see this is that you go back to ancient writings and they're dealing with the same exact stuff. We got better toys.
Yeah.
So there's this book from Marcus Aurelius. I don't remember what it's called. There was this woman that had written the history of self-help. And so the host was asking her, tell me about, the earliest self-help books. And the one from Marcus Aurelius went something like this. You've read about your friends where they don't treat you that well. Just consider at least you're not dead. And then you go to another chapter about, in work, things are going bad and they're not going the way you want, but at least you're not dead. And that was his book, and which is true.
I have to say, I totally love that. It is true. And, I always tell people, like, personal development is not new. Self-help is not new. Transformation is not new. We're all spinning things a bit differently.
Yes.
However, it's been around as long as human beings have had a brain and a heart.
So when I was in high school, we all have a favorite teacher. Mr. Higgins was our English teacher. And one day he read something out loud. He said, this was a letter written from one guy to his buddy. And the letter basically went, oh my God, we're going to hell. The next generation, they are lazy, not interested in the right things. I'm not sure where we're going to end up. And he said, could you date that? And said, okay, 1950s, 1920s. And it was like 1 BC. It was like translated. It was like, hey, this stuff has been going on. Because I could see my dad writing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course,
funny you say that, because just last evening, I was reflecting on, the whole political climate and all the division. And I thought, oh, this is all new. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. Vietnam, Kent State. I mean, I could give you a million examples. I'm like, this is not new. And it for me, it actually helped put things in perspective. And I didn't feel as, quote, debilitated as I had felt by hearing all of the rhetoric.
So here's something that is kind of interesting. So for us, we have these moments where the universe brings up stuff to help us confront what's going on and get a new direction.
Yep.
And here's my personal theory on why we're at this moment in time, is that we went from hunters and gatherers to farming. And I'm sure there was lots of hunters and gatherers like, are you guys freaking nuts? Why would we do this? This is insanity. And it took a while for that transformation to happen. It didn't happen overnight. And there was a lot of stress in the system. Then we went from agriculture to industrial. That took a while. Then we went from industrial to technology. And now we're going to the information age. I think we're just at the cusp of the information age, that we're not quite there. And that's why in this moment in time around the world, people are turning to strong men with radical ideas like, Cambodia is for Cambodians or whatever is happening in the Philippines and India, because we're at this space like, are my kids going to have a job? What's happening here? I think it's a 20-year, 30-year window. But once we get to the other side of it, something amazing stuff's going to happen. But just living through it is why we've got our climate in the U.S. And this division is because there's fear underneath.
I agree. I think there's lots of fear, uncertainty, all of these things that are driving. I have to remind my clients every single day, you get to consciously make choices about what you choose to think, feel, and experience. Go on a news diet, go on a social media diet, focus on what's important in your life, because you're not going to be able to change all of the things out there. You can only change how you respond and how you choose consciously to feel.
So Terri, I'm going to actually zing it back to you in a second. The way to transcend this is to check in with your heart.
Fuck yeah.
Because your head's going to say, those people are wrong. They're terrible. And your heart's going to say, yeah, but you're just like them, or see the love in them.
Yeah, for me, and I had this discussion with someone on Facebook the other day. He was just taking a side, let me put it that way. And I said, I just feel love for everybody. Everybody's in their own pain, in their own hurt. And everybody's in this mood of lashing out and frustration. And, certainly COVID and lockdown hasn't helped people mentally. So instead of expressing and spewing hate and anger, what if you just shared back a feeling of love? And he just couldn't resonate with that. And that's okay. I'm not going to push someone to that. That's what I've been doing. There's a lot of friends and family that hold a different position than I hold. I embrace them for it. That's what makes humanity. I send them love. I honor them. We didn't grow up the same. Our beliefs are different. You choose yours. I choose mine. That's how the world works. I just send love.
And if you want to get, dear listener, more motivation, more heartfelt kind of thoughts and ideas and techniques, there's a certain Facebook group that I know that you can go get that. Any ideas where that would be, Terri?
I don't know. I happen to have this on my mind. I have a community of about, 5,300 like-minded people. It's called Heartrepreneurs with Terri Levine. It's a Facebook group, and it is very different, very unusual. You will probably find no other Facebook group like this. There's live trainings, webinars, masterclasses, tools, documents, and people who really want to connect heart to heart with each other. So it's
Brilliant.
Heartrepreneurs with Terri Levine.
So Terri, I believe we had a heart-to-heart conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It was a pleasure, Umar. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.